Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Real, Raw, and Honest. I hope your morning is going well so far. So, today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Martha syndrome a little bit. We're going to take a look at earning love. That's what we're talking about today. Kind of a big topic, but one that I think is worthy of consideration. So, I hope you're enjoying these sessions. I enjoy making them. I hope that you're finding it helpful and that you're growing and healing as we go along. Feel free to leave me a comment or reach out to me at any time on any of the topics that we cover. So because I would be glad to just have a conversation with you or meet with you or something like that. So let's move into the inner healing and take a look at the Martha syndrome. So what is the Martha syndrome? And we talk a lot about Martha. We talk about how she worked, how she was always doing something, how she felt like she needed to, she couldn't sit at Jesus' feet. She needed to be cooking and cleaning and doing these things. And so this is the Martha syndrome. It's called earning love. Why? Where does that come from? We know a lot of people who, who. I don't have any problem being a Mary. I can tell you that. I need to have a little bit more of that Martha in me. I need to be honest because there are times I'm like, man, I really need to get that accomplished. I really need to vacuum because my cat is getting old and I could vacuum every day. He's just losing a ton of hair, but that's a whole nother story and whatever. But so let's just take a look at the earning love. So the thing about earning love is that when we do that, what it says is that to us it says that validation is love. Validation equals love. Love equals validation. Love equals, the applause. Love equals the comments and the likes and the shares and all of that kind of stuff. Love equals viral videos. Love equals, invitations. Love equals all of those things, when not necessarily, right? So you need to look at this and you need to go, okay, so love does not equal validation. Validation does not mean you are loved. Applause does not mean you are loved. Because there's a false applause out there too. There's a false recognition and a false acceptance and a false appreciation that's out there, and we don't want that. And what we want is the genuine, but because we're so used to getting in this environment that love equals validation or validation equals love, applause equals love, love equals applause, right? Then that puts us in this situation where we always have to be doing something. We have to be providing something that other people are going to appreciate. And when we feel appreciated, we feel loved. Those are two very different things, right? I appreciate my doctor. I appreciate my homeopath. I appreciate my publisher, but I do not love them. I appreciate them. There's a difference. And so it's looking at that and going, oh, okay, so I can be appreciated and I can appreciate someone else, but it doesn't mean that they love us. So that's the first truth that we need to really kind of get down inside of our heart, is that it doesn't actually mean that you're loved, but in your mind it can mean that you're loved if that's what was happening when you were growing up, right? So the truth of the matter is every person on the planet needs validation. Every person on the planet needs love, and everybody should get love and validation. That is how it works, especially as children. As children, when we're growing up, we need to be loved and appreciated and valued, and we need to be seen as adorable and all of the things. Those are needs that need to happen for a child. And so it shouldn't be about the fact that, even as young as, toddler size, that you took your nappy to the garbage pail and put it in. Yay, we love you so much. Those things should never be equated, right? So every child needs love. Every person needs love. Every person needs to be validated at some point in their life. Maybe not every day, but we need, when we do things, when we do well, in the writing of my book, it felt good to get it done. And I have to be honest and say that was kind of validation enough, right? That I actually finished it and it's published and you can buy it on Amazon. It's called What Not to Say. It's right there. What Not to Say by Cheryl Bay. You can buy that book and buy it on Amazon. Or if you're seeing me, you can buy a copy directly from me. Truth right? But when other people read it and they said, "Wow, that's well written. It's so good." I'm like, validation. It felt good, but it doesn't mean they love me. It means that they appreciate what I did and that it is something that needed to be brought forth. So validation and love belong to every person on planet Earth. Just because you exist, just because you're created in God's image, you should be validated and you should be loved. And I do believe that. Doesn't mean that if you're sinning and you're walking in sin that you don't need to be corrected. Being corrected does not mean that you're not loved. It just means that you need to be corrected. So moving on from that, we're going to talk about, when you grow up in a home where that is how you're perceived, right? If you are the kind of kid that is a helper from a very early age, well, that's great. But like I said, love shouldn't be attached to that. Having kids that danced, having kids that sing, having kids that perform, do movies and that kind of thing. My love is not contingent on the movie role. My love isn't contingent on winning a scholarship or a competition. My love is contingent on the fact that this is my child whom I love, and that's it. I love them just because they're here, right? But that isn't always the case with everybody. So when you grow up in an environment like that, you only really receive love when you earn it. And I've walked with people through this before, and special privileges are given to children who do well. I remember talking to one woman, and she'd say whenever she would enter a competition for her particular gift set, that if she did well and she performed and she won, her parents would take her out for dinner, and everybody would notice her, and then they would tell everybody in the restaurant that she did well and it was great, and she was applauded by strangers, and all of that was taking place. If she didn't win the competition, it was silence. They drove home in silence. There was no dinner, there was no going out, there was none of those things. It was just silent. And so that affected her very deeply. And so she's been chasing that, or was chasing that for years afterward, trying to get that same love, that same validation. The only time she was worth anything was when she did well in something. So that was something that she really needed to work through. And so, just to consider where you are with the Martha syndrome, right? Where are you? So what this does is when you're in that kind of environment, it's love becomes conditional. If I make a good meal, if I have a clean house, if I win the competition, if I get the promotion, if I get the role, if I have my own ministry, if, then I'm valued, then I'm honored, then I'm appreciated. It's conditional. Everything you do and everything where you step forward is like all about what you can or cannot do. But the thing is if you're in that place for a long time, it becomes not enough, right? So you can be in a position where I don't know, let's take something, say you're a good cook and you manage to be able to cook well, or, and you're knocking it out of the park every night, and then all of a sudden one day it's not good. And you're like, I don't know what happened. It's not good, but we have to eat out because I can't eat this. I've made a mistake. Now all of a sudden your self-worth is in the fact that you had to throw that out and that it wasn't edible. Your self-worth tanks because of that. And this can be the same for work or any other number of things. So love should not be conditional. It should never be conditional. Love should be love, especially for children, right? Like kids are kids, and I tell my grandkids, I have my favorite oldest son, I have my favorite youngest son, I have my favorite oldest granddaughter, I have my favorite youngest daughter, I have my favorite daughter, I have my favorite granddaughter, I have it just goes on, or my favorite oldest granddaughter, right? And so you do that because that is the thing that enables people to look and to go, oh, you love me just because I'm here, because I'm here, I'm a part of you, and I love you, and I just love them for that. So there's something really secure in just knowing that you're loved because you're here, right? So we don't want love to ever feel like it's conditional. And then, again, that applause, that feeling of that applause, the kind words, the recognition, all of those kinds of things when they succeed, or when they're obedient, when they clean their room without being asked, whenever those are the highlights that you did this, and so there's a great reward for that. Now all of a sudden what you're doing is you're putting this sense of love is rewardable, right? You're putting, and love is not rewardable. Love is love, right? And love should not be conditional. Love is not validation. Validation is not love. And so when those things become the highlight, or the thing that we look at in order to get love, it puts us in the Martha syndrome. Because if I'm going to be loved, if I'm going to receive love, if I'm going to get love, I have to work for it. And if I don't work for it, then I'm not worth my salt. And so I just got bit by a mosquito, so sorry, I'm going to try to ignore that. But so the love aspect, right? Like, that we're loved because we're here, right? And that it's not contingent on how well we do in a competition, whether we get the role, the promotion, whatever. It's not about that. So when this follows us into adulthood and we grow up, and it does, if we don't deal with it, we will walk in this, we will live in this, we will struggle with this, we will be the doers in the church, we will be the women who have to be at everything, do everything, put everything together, tear everything down. We're going to be the women that need to be on the worship team and do 14 other different things. Like, we're going to be on everything that can be happening in the church, plus doing things at work, and that will wear you out, right? And that is a very big thing very often for women is that the Martha syndrome. So the thing is when as an adult we do that, we're saying, if I'm going to receive love, then I have to earn it. This leads us into people pleasing. And so when somebody are like, because the guilt that comes, well, I really need somebody to work in the nursery. I really need somebody to lead the kids. I really need somebody to go on this trip. I'm looking for one more volunteer. And then you're like, oh my God, okay, so I've done it before. Or they'll come and they'll call you, would you be okay on going on this field trip? And you've got other things you need to get done that day, and you're like, yeah, sure, because you can't say no, right? And so Martha syndrome, right? And so if I'm going to be loved, they'll love me if I go. They'll appreciate me so much if I go. If I go, it's going to be seen as they're going to, it's going to weigh in my favor, right? So, if I'm going to be loved, if I'm going to be received, if I'm going to be accepted, if I'm going to be appreciated, I have to do something in order for that to happen. So the thing is the other side of that is that when you're in this situation, you might feel that outside of what you contribute, you're not lovable. So if I'm not contributing something, I'm not lovable. I'm not receivable. I'm not acceptable. I'm flawed, right? So that is the push that causes us to do more, work harder, show up, fill in the gaps, fill in the holes, do the stuff, right? And there are people who will use that to their advantage because they know you can't say no. It's a small word, but it's a hard word to say, and it's hard to wrap your head around, and it's hard to get to the place where you can consistently be good to yourself and know that your love and your appreciation shouldn't be, and it might be for that person. They might not like it, but if they're your friend, they're going to love you anyway, right? So we don't want to get into that place that if I'm not doing, if I'm not responding, if I'm not doing all of these things, then I'm not acceptable, I'm flawed. A bad place to be, and we don't want to go there. We don't want to think we're unlovable because we didn't go to the church early on Saturday so I could set up for the banquet that was happening Saturday night, right? If you're working and if your kids are sick or whatever, you just say no. Like, it's a small word, hard to say, right? So another thing is we have to get to the place where we can allow God to heal us. We need to get to that place. And, when we live in this environment, it creates a space where, we're always going to be looking for that pat on the back. We're always looking for it in everything that we do. We need somebody to come up and say, and being in ministry, preaching or whatever, and it's a kicker, right? Like, because you don't want people to just walk away and nobody say anything, because that doesn't feel good either. And like at one point I said, as a woman, having men come up and bring correction to me every single week, because I didn't say something or didn't make a point clear enough. I'm thinking, do you do this to the men too, or is it just me, right? And that happened to me for years. It no longer happens, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're looking for that validation. The reality is, if God is pleased, then that's all that really matters. And so that's the appreciation we're going for. That's the applause we're going for. That's the love that we're doing what we're doing out of love for him, because he asked us to do it. And so it's just moving forward and stepping into the role that he's asked us to do. And that's it. Just doing that, not trying to be everybody for, being everything for everybody. So we don't want to be looking for validation from other people all the time because of something that they need done. And because when we do that, yes, it makes them feel good. When we fill a hole, it makes them feel good. It takes the tension and takes the pressure off. But then what it says is to us is that I'm validated, and that means it's love. And people pleasing is a big part of this. The thing is, we can't be our authentic self outside of the things that we do. Then we have a problem, right? If we can't be authentic, if we can't be who we really are, if we can't walk in the realness of who God created us to be, if we can't be real, raw, and honest, if we can't be authentic, then, and I hate that, using that word, but the truth is, really, we need to be real, raw, and honest. We just need to be who we are, because if we have to be somebody else in order to get the love, then what that says is it feels like we're flawed. It feels like if I just want to take a holiday where I'm just sitting in my house and I do a staycation, I'm sitting in my house and I'm reading and praying or just resting and doing nothing and not answering my phone, and God forbid I don't even go to church, then if that makes us feel flawed, well, then we need to look at this that much more, because the reality is the Martha syndrome is very real, and corporate America really does thrive on this, right? You are worth the amount of money you have in your bank account. You're more valuable if you're a multi-billionaire. You're more valuable if you're a millionaire. But if you're a multi-billionaire, then you're more valuable than you are if you're a millionaire, because there's a distinction there. If you've succeeded in your work, if you succeeded in your job, if you've got a business and you've succeeded and started a second successful business, you're successful. You're worthy of honor, you're worthy of acceptance. Those are wrong reasons, right? But what it does is it creates a work harder mentality and a people-pleasing mentality that needs to be broken. So what I'm going to do now, if that all makes sense to you, is I'm going to go into some of the healing tools that we need so that we can step away from this and we can become who God created us to be, and that we can take some downtime and we can accept ourselves for who we are, whether we fail or whether we succeed. Because the reality is, we did it. You know what? The reality is, whether you get up on Sunday morning and you're the one that's supposed to give the announcements, or you're the one singing a solo, getting up and doing it is the thing. The acclamation that you might get after that has nothing to do with it. Raising your children to be good adults is our responsibility, not a reason for applause. How many things you're involved in has nothing to do with our validity and the desire and being loved, right? So why we need to break it is that. So let's take a look at some of the healing things that we need to do in order to step away from this. So the first thing and the hardest thing for you to do is to be able to look at this and go, you know what? I recognize I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of love whether I do anything at all, just show up on Sunday, or if I don't. I'm worthy of love. My people love me. My friends love me. My family loves me. And I'm worthy of that love because I'm a human being, because I'm created in the image of God, and so is everybody else. But when you're looking at this for yourself, and that's tough to say, I'm worthy of love, even if I'm not doing something to earn it, especially if I'm not doing something to earn it. I'm worthy of love. Right? And then ask God to help you to receive this truth in the depth of your being, for you to be able to go, I'm worthy of love because I'm a child of God. I'm worthy of love because I'm on this planet. And ask God, if you can't see it around you, it has to start with Him. Can you receive His love even if you don't do anything? Can you receive His love even if you haven't crossed off every check mark that you have on your schedule to do? To ask Him to show you His love, and to allow yourself to feel that love, to receive it. And the second thing is to ask God to help you forgive those who made you feel like validation is love. Right? We need to forgive those people who, and a lot of that can be teachers. A lot of that can be if you've done competitive sports, if you've done any kind of competitions like singing or dancing, if you were good at any of those things, especially if you were good at those things, right? If you won the awards, if you were the one who won the competitions, it's really important for you to look at this and go, my validation, my love doesn't come from the fact that I did this, because you will grow up and you aren't going to be doing dance competitions when you're 45. You're not going to be doing singing competitions necessarily at 50. You're going to be just living life and doing it with your family. And so if you're still looking for that kind of validation in that area, it's asking the Lord to help you just to see that you're loved and you're valued by Him just because you're here, and then forgiving those people who made you feel like your worth was equal to your award, equal to your trophy. And then what we want to do is we want to acknowledge before God how it made you feel when you were made to feel like your worth is tied up in what you do, in the Martha syndrome, that your worth is tied up in, putting forth your best effort in everything that's asked of you. This is a real problem for women. I'm not going to lie. I've worked with many women through the years who've struggled with this, and their struggle is, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? But if you can't do it, and if you're already worn out, don't do it. Like, you need to take care of yourself. And inevitably, in the first while, when we start working through this, they do the work. They step into it and they go, yeah, but I knew they didn't have anybody else, and they made me feel guilty because if I didn't do it, there'd be nobody else to do it. And so they did it. And so it's like, well, that's not really a situation that we need to put ourselves in, right? There are other people that can be called on, other people that can be can step into that role. We're not going to live forever. Somebody else at some time is going to have to step into the role that you're doing. So, ask God to help you to forgive those people, and do forgive them, right? Forgive them and say, I forgive you for making me feel like my appreciation and my self-worth is tied up in my works and the things that I do. And then another thing is to acknowledge before God how it made you feel. Like I said, how it makes you feel today, right? How did it make you feel then? How does it make you feel today, right? If you were as a child and you felt, well, I'm only as good as the fact that I'm the prettiest one in the class, or I was, and if it's tied, and it can be tied up in your looks, right? In the fact that you were the most athletic in your school, right? Whatever it is, right? Wherever that validation comes from, is acknowledging before God how it made you feel good, how it made you feel at the time, and how it makes you feel now. Because as a kid, it feels good. It always feels good to be validated. It always feels good to feel like you are appreciated for something that you contributed. Like I said with my book, it feels good when people come up to me and they go, wow, that was a good job, right? That makes me feel good. But it feels good just knowing I accomplished what God asked me to do. That feels good too. And actually, to be able to set it aside and go, here I am, God, it's up to you what you're doing. So acknowledge how it made you feel when you were a kid, because if you don't feel validated when you're not doing anything, if you're just sitting on the couch and watching TV, if you don't feel loved just because of that, well, You're going to have to work through some of those things. So, and the fourth thing is to repent for putting people pleasing ahead of God. And that's what this leads us to, is people pleasing. I have to put out the best looking table. I have to put out the best meal when I have people over. I have to present myself a certain way if I'm going to be received. We put people pleasing, to please other people, ahead of pleasing God. And we don't want to do that. And so asking God to forgive you for putting yourself in a position of people pleasing. And then lastly, you give your Martha syndrome, your Martha tendencies to God, and you ask him to heal the wounds that caused it. You just ask him to come in and to bring a healing into your heart and put it aside and go, I recognize Martha, the Martha syndrome in my life. I recognize the Martha spirit. I have it. I know that, and I don't want to have it. I want to, just walk away from it, and I want to just be me. I just want to be real, raw, honest. I want to be authentic. I want to be who you created me to be and do what you've called me to be. And so that's really what our goal is as we walk through these things. So I hope you found this beneficial. And, the Martha syndrome is alive and well in the church today. At the same time, I will say this, that what happens to other people when the Martha syndrome is apparent, and that person will step into that, is people who want to step into that role are not usually asked, because the people who are in charge will often continually ask the same person, because it's less work for them to try to train somebody else than it is to have that old person put into that position. And that can leave a sense of rejection inside of other people as well. So knowing that when you don't step into your Martha syndrome, your Martha spirit, that somebody else can maybe step into that as well. And so that's really what I have to say today. I hope that you found this encouraging. I hope you found it helpful. And know this, God has a plan for your life. He has a purpose for your life, but overworking and stepping into every role is not one of them. What did he say to Martha? He said, Martha, Martha, your sister has chosen the better thing. To sit at my feet and to learn at my feet is the better thing. You're busy about much and doing much, but Mary has chosen the better thing. And so realize that you can never give God too much of your time. He doesn't love you more because you spend more time with him. He doesn't love you less. He loves you because he created you and you're born again and you're giving him your time. When I was a young mom, I didn't have the time I have now, but God knows, and he loves me anyway. And so I just encourage you to work through this. Men, you can have the Martha syndrome as well. You can have the Martha spirit as well, and it can work its way out in the church as well as it can in your job site. So, be encouraged. God loves you, and you're enough just the way you are, because you are created in his image. He died on that cross for you. He shed his blood for you, and he had his body torn for you. He loves you. Rest in that and soak that up so that you can be the fullness of what he's called and created you to be. God bless you. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Please leave a comment. I appreciate them so much. And we will see you next week.